Hi everyone, thanks for coming. I'm glad that we could get together on such short notice. I know you all have been working really hard. As you know, UMO has requested us to get together and put this together, and we've not had a great deal of turnaround time to do that. Just to kind of rehash where we are, UMO has been struggling with their enrollment numbers for about 5 years now. They had previously asked us to put together some recommendations for how they could bring their enrollment up. And at our recommendation, they had, the administration had developed into their 5-year strategic plan that they would be implementing an online degree program. And when this was presented to the faculty raised a lot of concerns. And so they've come back and they've asked us to put together an equality comparison report for them, and basically what we need to do is to provide the faculty with some supporting evidence that creating an online program is not going to create a lot of inequality, especially in terms of the resources that have to be used, the time dedicated to teaching and training, but then also with respect to the quality of the online experience. So basically, we need to be addressing 3 areas and then come up with 3 recommendations. So our tech person couldn't be here today, but she left us some detailed information that she put together for us, so we'll be building that into our discussion. And Kelly, I know you've put together a lot of stuff as far as equity and equality goes. Brandi, we definitely need to hear from a standard operating procedure, those things we need to take into consideration. And John, we just really need your insight. You're always able to pull out some different views on things and help us think about things we don't necessarily come up with. So we're going to need to hear all of that. And then, Pato, we're just going to depend on you to kind of help wrap things together for us as we move through our discussion here. So let's just kind of start off here with a first thought. How technology may or may not impact the learning process? That's one thing we're going to need to address for this group of faculty, I think. In terms of equity and equality, do you have any thoughts on that, Kelly?
Well, I think students, regardless if they're in the classroom or online, they have technology. They need to have it right at their fingertips. They need to be able to access that course material, maybe books, e-books, things like that. They need to be able to have it at their fingertips regardless of where they're taking the course.
Okay. Those are some good points. Those are also some of the points that our tech person had left for us that we needed to think about as we move forward, using some supportive technology in addition to just the online learning platforms, considering that into maybe helping the faculty become a little bit more comfortable, but then also creating some equality there between the online and the on-ground folks. Any concerns that you would have, Brandi, from a standard operating procedure in terms of how technology may or may not impact the learning process?
I think as long as the online students are given the same general opportunity to use technology that they get being an on-ground student, I don't see that it's going to pose any kind of an inequality from that standpoint. Instructors will have to be mindful that their online students may have more technology access than their on-ground students are. So making sure that they prepare for either direction, either making sure everyone has the same technology or teaching down to what they may not have.
Okay, that's a good point. John, what are your thoughts on that?
I think there will be some concern because we know that there are more online programs in existence that deal with the soft sciences as opposed to the hard sciences, and we know that there are more women and minorities in the soft sciences than the hard sciences. So, you know, if the quality is not the same for on-ground classes and online classes, and that's really going to disadvantage women and minorities, which obviously, you know, you don't need me to go into the history of that, but that's something that I think that we definitely need to address going forward. If we're going to do this, we need to make sure that our online classes are going to be the same rigor and the same opportunities in each of the disciplines if we want to make sure that nobody's getting left behind on this.
Right, exactly. There's a couple of things that our tech person has left with respect to that are maybe important things for us to consider. One of the points that she has left in terms of the supportive technology that we might want to recommend would be using e-podiums so that classroom lectures could be recorded, and then online students as well as on-ground students could have access to those through Tegrity and be able to view those at any time they wanted to. That would definitely create some equality. But then also being able to maybe have blended classes where there are some students that are streaming in and they're meeting synchronously with students that are actually on ground, so that they're experiencing this somewhat same learning environment, although it's still not exactly the same as being in the classroom. The question I think that we run into there is, and a good point that you made, John, with the hard sciences, how do we create equality there, especially when we talk about some of the lab classes and that sort of thing? Does anybody have any ideas about that?
I think a really good idea would be to have hybrid lab classes where the students take lecture completely online, but they come somewhere for labs and they're actually getting that hands-on lab experience, getting to do the same labs as students in an in-class environment.
And I think you can use proctors for things of that nature or adjunct faculty. You know, if you've got a student in a different community or a different state taking your class, surely there's a community college or some sort of college nearby that they could go do that and be overseen by somebody who knows that lab, you know, so that you're not inconveniencing them to have to travel long distances to complete those assignments.
One other point that our tech person has left with respect to that is the possibility of having students that absolutely could not travel to campus use like a lab kit and then videotape their lab time and send it in for their course credit on that.
It's a good idea.
Good idea. How do we deal with things like, maybe I'm getting ahead, but like plagiarism or academic integrity?
Right. Good point. I think that's definitely something that the faculty were concerned about, and their point being that creates a disadvantage for students that are coming to the classroom because they are taking the class there while somebody's watching, whereas an online student may have access to other materials that they could essentially cheat on their test. What ideas can we come up with to try to alleviate their concerns about that?
I think the first line of defense is a lockdown browser option. You can get, I know Respondus has one, but you can do lockdown browsers that will not allow them to search anywhere on the web. They can't Google anything. They can't leave the page of the test. They only have access to the one area that test is being offered. That'd be one option.
I think that is a great option. And you can even get a lockdown with a monitor addition where not only does it lock them into the page, but it requires them to have a webcam. And they have to show an ID showing that they are the student who is supposed to be there. And they have to use their webcam to show their workspace. So you can see that there's no phone or notebook or textbook laying there, and it will actually monitor them through the whole exam. and the instructor can go back and look at those videos and see any places where the student disappeared or any flags that the program thinks something was going wrong with the student.
That's a great.
Right. Yeah, I think we've come up with some great ideas there that we can use as part of our recommendations. Let's move to our next point. What do you think some of the intended and unintended consequences of developing this equity comparison report, comparing online on-ground programs might be?
Well, maybe an unintended consequence might be that we have, if people are taking classes online, they don't develop the soft skills that employers harp on a lot, like how to interact with other people, how to work professionally with others. This could be something that would be I think would be a concern to faculty.
Going back to
using that.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think using that hybrid option, yet again, helps with that, because it at least gets them out from behind their computer, at least to go to lab, so they at least have to engage with someone for that, at least that one assignment. So maybe that would help a little.
Right. Well, one thing that our tech person had left with respect to that was being able to do some video conferencing, using video conferencing technology to have collaborative learning experiences so that they can communicate somewhat face-to-face with other folks instead of just kind of being isolated in that learning experience. Any other ideas there?
The faculty could encourage group work, even if it's a video conference, or even if it's not video conference, if it's more of a discussion board post, or if it's more of some sort of collaborative presentation, it at least forces them to work with their classmates in some respect.
Right. Yes, absolutely. So some sort of interaction being encouraged by the faculty, and that's probably where really training faculty is going to come into play. I know that's something that we probably need to discuss on some level, would be what recommendations we might have for that. I think before we move there, we might want to think about some of the some more information that the tech person has left for us before we move forward with actually discussing training. In terms of just the infrastructure, she did review all of that. It looks like there is a good server in place, good configuration for startup. There may be some expense down the road when we're talking about equity. There's enough configuration right now for startup with a few users they would anticipate, but as their online learning program grows down the road, they may have to put some more expense into that to have some increase there. Good bandwidth should allow for seamless access for the users. The biggest decision they're going to have to make would be what e-learning platform that they're going to want to use. And she reviewed 3 different ones. Moodle, of course, it's free. That sounds really great, but there's a lot of add-on expenses. There's not a lot of tech support. Coming into a university where they're not using a lot of this may be a problem in that respect, because they're probably going to need a lot of tech support with folks that are not very tech savvy. Blackboard, very expensive, but good tech support. There's been some recent criticism on that, according to her documentation here, in terms of some technical problems. But they do have a good tech support system. D2L falls somewhere in between there. It's very user-friendly, more cost-effective. A lot of tools that would let the faculty do exactly what we were talking about just now in terms of fostering some interaction. So there's discussion boards. There's mail features that let you mail an entire group at once. Faculty can post announcements on the board, and then there's also fairly decent tech support. quizzes, gradebook, so a lot of pluses there. I think overall, her most solid recommendation would be that we recommend D2L, but of course we want everybody's input on that. What are your thoughts?
D2L is about to add an accessibility tool to their platform, which I think pushes it ahead of the other two, because now we are getting some equality with those students who have accessibility issues.
Okay. That's a very good, go ahead.
It also encompasses Turnitin, I believe, is what it's called, where students can submit papers and written assignments, and it can be checked for plagiarism. So that helps in that academic integrity aspect as well.
Excellent, excellent points. Yeah, I think we've come up with some real solid information here. You all, what are your thoughts? Are we ready to try to move towards making some recommendations?
I think so.
Think so.
Okay. Pato, would you care to kind of just run back through things for us before we identify what our three recommendations do?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about why we believe that online courses will help UMO increase their enrollment. But we also wanted to make sure that on-ground students get the same education as online students, right? So, so they have the same opportunity, and they have equal access to the materials and learning. So I think our number one recommendation would be to, you know, create some kind of hybrid program where students can, for example, if it's a lab course, like a biology course, where they can take the lectures online, but then they will do the lab course either in class, or if they can go to a local university where they can have a proctor or a, you know, a professor or even a GA that could be there to, you know, proctor the work that they do in the lab itself. And then I think our second recommendation will be to suggest the D2L platform. You know, our tech person did a lot of research, and it's user friendly. There's lots of tools that, you know, professors can use to, you know, with these hybrid kind of courses. It's not as expensive as Blackboard. They do have tech support, and we can use the Lockdown browser that we mentioned for those faculty members that are, you know, hesitant about students doing online, you know, quizzes or exams. And then, you know, D2L also has that Turnitin.com that, you know, basically can see if students are plagiarizing or not.
Okay, so we've got two solid recommendations there, I think. Don't you think? Do you all agree?
I do.
Yes.
The one area that we we're going to come back to was faculty training, and maybe just keeping faculty more involved. And what things can we come up with respect to that, do you think?
Maybe if we have a committee of faculty members, so that it's kind of faculty driven instead of administration driven.
You would need faculty, certainly strong faculty buy-in. If it's seen as being pushed by the administration, then there may be resistance to that. How would we make sure that the faculty that serve on this committee are not just viewed as working on behalf of the administration?
I think you use your faculty members to nominate within each department or with each school, or probably with each department would be easiest, and let them nominate faculty members almost like you would elect someone to a staff or faculty senate. That way one person is being selected by the group. They know it's not being handed down by the administration. And then that faculty person becomes the cheerleader, the champion for the online push to help bring that excitement and that those opportunities back to their colleagues.
And I think offering training for faculty would be also something that we might need to consider there. Because you can't just introduce the technology and not train them.
I think not only training on the initial side, but letting them know that there is tech support for them, that there's people on campus, that there's an IT department or e-learning department that is going to back them up and help them, not only with the program, the D2L, but with the technology itself. So knowing that they have some backup.
So basically we're talking about reaching out to faculty to kind of create buy-in by just reassuring them that they're going to have support and they're also going to have a voice in how this moves forward.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we've achieved our goal. We have our 3 recommendations to take back. We'll just ask Pato, if you don't care, to write that up for us, and we'll get that submitted as soon as possible. Good work, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.